It's 9 p.m. Monday night. While the rest of the world slows down, you're tuning in to the Final Boss podcast. This is Motivation Mondays, where mindsets shift, hustle gets honored, and the 6 pillars of success get broken all the way down. We're talking motivation, resilience, sacrifice, consistency, persistence, and perseverance. Hosted by the one and only Turbo, the CEO, bringing real talk, raw stories, and relentless energy to spark your week with purpose. So lock in, take notes, and remember, success ain't just a dream, it's a discipline.
Welcome. Welcome to the Final Boss podcast, Monday night edition, right? It's Motivation Monday. Listen, man, I got a great show for you tonight. Yes, I do. Man, we're at episode number 187. 187 in the, you know the verse. For those who do know the verse. 187 in that song. So, listen. Oh man. Look. The chatter, all you hear on the net, the Super Bowl, the fouls, Super Bowl. The vacuum never ceases to amaze me. The vacuum never ceases to amaze me. The echo chamber never ceases to amaze me. It's amazing, man. Amazing. Look, thank you everybody for joining us who's already here. Mark, Mari, Shikandi, the beautiful Andrea, everybody who's here. Thank you so much. I think my sinuses are acting up, man. I just got finished having a sneeze attack. But look, you know what? Let's get right into it. If you haven't picked up, we're going to be talking about this all night long. If you have not gotten your copy of Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train, this is your motivation workbook. This is your motivation workbook. This is your motivation textbook. This is right here. This is where we're going to be teaching from, right? This is where we're going to be teaching from. That is your textbook. That is your workbook. Go Time, all aboard what? The Fired Up Train. And tonight, I have a great show for you tonight, man. You're going to be hearing that sound throughout the night as we go through. To each and every single one of you that are here and that are joining us, right? If you're watching or checking us out from Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Kick, Instagram, YouTube, or for your audio listening pleasures, Spotify. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, people. Good night, right? So tonight, episode number 187, as we are vastly approaching episode number 200, which will end season 3, The Reckoning, right? Season 3, The Reckoning, right? Hey, Brittany, thank you for joining us. Season 3, The Reckoning, and we're going into season 4, The Rebirth, at episode number 201, God willing, right? God willing. You know, if we all still here, right? If we're all still here, we're going to make it to episode number 201, and that is going to bring on season 4, the rebirth, people, the rebirth, right? So now that I got a substantial amount of people in right now, let's go ahead and get into tonight's episode. Right now, if I do that a lot, my sign, look, man, I apologize. You're the only one here, but I'm broadcasting right now, Brittany, on 10 different platforms at the same time. That's why I give a shout out to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, and Spotify, because we're all running live on those platforms at the same time. Yo, my man, what's good? Affirmations, what's good, man? Hey, man, drop your name again, so I won't, give you a tag, and I could give you a shout out with your real name, man. Go ahead and drop your real name in there so I can give you a proper shout out. Right? Yeah, Brittany. Yeah, man. We're live on 10 different platforms right now simultaneously. So, look, now that we got that out the way, man. Look, tonight, man, it's Motivation Monday. I hope everybody's motivated like I'm motivated, man. You did some jumping jacks, you did some push-ups, right? You ran in place, man. We got the energy going. We got the energy flowing. You've had your caffeine, you've had your coffee, your energy drink, your whatever your preference is to get that energy flowing, because right now, man, we get ready to get into it. We are getting ready to get into it. It is going down. It is going down, right? So, to my motivators, to my smarts, to my warriors, to my final bosses, what good and what's happening, good people? This is the Final Boss community, Final Boss Nation, Final Boss podcast, right? I am the one and only, the Final Boss. And to each and every single one of you, all 350,000 plus of you across all platforms watching right now and tonight, I'm about to tell you something that's going to flip everything you thought you knew about motivation, right? And I hope you're ready for this, right? I hope you're ready for this. I spoke of it briefly in All Aboard the Fired Up Train. Go time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train. This is your workbook. This is your manuscript. This is your workbook. I'm sorry, your textbook, right? Workbook, textbook. I'm about to tell you something about motivation. We're going to talk about it from a discipline aspect, not energy, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And here it is, right? Here it is. You don't need motivation to be disciplined. I say again, you don't need motivation to be disciplined. You need discipline to get motivated, right? Listen, I'm sorry for sniffling. If I sneeze or if I do that, clear my throat, something is irritating my sinuses. And remember, we're live, so I can't take none of that stuff out. This is the most authentic presence that I can give to you, right? So, you need discipline to get motivated, right? I know what you guys are thinking. I know, right? That sounds backwards. That sounds like I'm playing word games with you, but here's the thing. I'm not, man. What I'm about to show you tonight, right, can be found mostly in Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train. But what I'm going to show you right now, it's the paradox. The paradox that separates amateurs from professionals, chess pieces from chess masters, people who start from people who finish, right? Most people are sitting around waiting to feel motivated before they take action. And that's why most people are broke, stuck, and just settling, right? Final bosses, we do it differently. Final bosses understand that discipline creates motivation, not the other way around, right? And tonight, we're diving into motivation from discipline, right? And I'm going to pull from everything we've built over the last 187 episodes of all the Motivation Mondays that we have that are in those 187 episodes, right? We're going to be talking about the 6 pillars of success, the 6 building blocks of reward, the 5 systems of sovereignty, the 4 weapons of warfare, the 6 pillars of execution, the 5 scales of empire, the 6 C's of character compass, and last but not least, the Fired Up Train methodology. We're going all in on all principles, all of the methodologies, and we're going to be talking about it for discipline. and motivation, the motivation of discipline and the discipline of motivation, right? All of it, every framework, every principle, every lesson that we've been talking about, man, that we've been talking about, right? And I'm going to show you how discipline is the through line, right? The common thread, the fuel system that powers everything, right? Look, drop a fire emoji in the chat right now if you're ready to understand the discipline paradox, right? And then drop crosswords, right? If you're tired of waiting to feel motivated, right? This is the Final Boss Podcast. I am your host. And to my smarts, my warriors, to my Final Boss, my motivators, it is time to go. It is go time. It is go time. Yes. So for those who are just now joining us, thank you for being here. For those who, hey, okay, got you, John. For those, y'all, hey man, y'all the comments. I'm sorry. Oh boy, the comments keep me rolling, man. Keep me rolling. Look, don't switch your down. Don't do that. That's not good. Listen, to my smarts, man, to my fighter boss, to my motivators and warriors, whether you're tuning in from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Spotify, right? Or you're listening, whatever you're listening on, whatever platform you're listening on, right? Here's what we're going to be talking about, right? It's going to be broken down in several parts, right? Part one, we're going to talk about why emotion-based motivation fails and why you keep starting and stopping. And then part two is why discipline-based motivation works and creates compound results. And part three, the discipline motivation loop, right? That's the perpetuating cycle, right? And then part four, that's the discipline principles from all of the frameworks in that very integration model, right? And of course, we have part five, which is going to be a real world application that we're going to be applying, right? And then part six, that's the 7 discipline protocols. That's your tactical implementation system, right? And then part 7, we're going to always, we have a call to action, your 30-day challenge, right? This is going to be your proof of concept for your life. And this isn't theory. This isn't motivational fluff, right? It's not motivational fluff. This is systematic transformation backed by real combat experience and business results and real frameworks that work. Now, let me go ahead and give you the brass tacks of the evening, right? And the brass tacks for tonight. Here it is. Wait, you know what? I need some Java juice. Let me get some Java juice. Delicious, right? Yes. All right. Here's your brass tacks for the evening, right? Emotion-based motivation is a sugar high that crashes by noon. Discipline-based motivation is sustainable fuel that compounds daily, right? One gets you started, the other gets you to the finish line, right? Final bosses don't wait to feel ready. They create readiness through disciplined execution, right? Now let that marinate, final bosses, right? And here's the reality most people won't admit. They won't admit this, right? You're not going to feel like doing the work most days. You're not. I don't, but I'm here, right? I don't feel like it, right? I don't feel like getting up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, right? Most mornings or all mornings. I don't feel like recording 5 shows a week every single week, right? I don't feel like studying for my MBA, right? While running businesses and everyday life, right? I don't feel like it. I'm not going to feel like starting my doctoral program at CTU in July, right? I'm not, but I do it anyway. I do it anyway, right? Not because I'm motivated, but because I'm disciplined, right? And you know what happens, right? After I execute that discipline, then I get motivated, right? Like tonight, my sinuses are killing me right now, but I'm here, right? Moving on, right? And then for some reason, I feel the energy, like I'm super hyped. People are always asking, man, what did you take before the show? What did you take? Right? Did you take something? I'm like, no, I did not. This is my motivation, right? And then after one, I want to do more. I've even done back-to-back shows, right? We're talking about 2 hours of content, right? Back to back. I've done that, right? But see, that's the paradox. That's the secret, right? That's what tonight is all about. So let's get to work, right? Let's get to work. If you haven't did any jumping jacks, man, do some jumping jacks. If you haven't did your push-ups, do some push-ups. If you haven't ran in place, man, to feel good, to get your juices flowing, do that too, right? Because what I'm going to tell you, right? What I'm going to tell you is that there was a time that I was working at the Pentagon, right? And I was a fiber optic technician working there, right? We was finishing up that project before the day of the incident, right? And in that moment, I watched two types of people, right? I watched two types of people. Type one, the emotion motivated, right? These people who were operated on feelings. When they felt safe, they performed well. When they felt confident, they executed. When they felt ready, they moved. But when that accident happened, their emotions went haywire, right? Fear, panic, confusion, paralysis, right? Their emotion-based motivation evaporated and many of them froze in place, right? And then you had type two people, right? And these are the discipline motivated people, right? These were people who operated on protocols. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't need to feel confident. They had training. They had trained, right? They had drilled, right? They had discipline. When the incident happened, their emotions were just as intense, but their discipline kicked in automatically. They moved, they acted, they executed, and lives were saved, right? The difference wasn't courage, the difference was discipline. Now, let me bring this into your life, right? Your life, right? To my smarts. Here's why emotion-based motivation fails, right? And this is reason number one. Emotions are unreliable, right? I'm gonna say that again. Emotions are unreliable, right? You wake up feeling great this morning or Monday, all right? But tomorrow, which is Tuesday, you might be exhausted, right? And Wednesday, you might be stressed. Thursday, you might be overwhelmed. Friday, you'll be so distracted by the weekend. Who knows what you're going to be feeling, right? If your execution depends on your emotions, you're going to be inconsistent. Point blank, period. Right? Reason number two, emotions respond to circumstances, right? When good news comes in, you're motivated. Bad news hits, motivation crashes. Someone doubts you, you're demotivated. Someone praises you, you're remotivated, right? If you don't believe me, go test it out. Go test it out, man. If you don't believe me, go test it out. I'm trying to tell you, these are lessons that I know to be true, right? You're on an emotional roller coaster, right? And roller coasters don't build empires, right? So, emotion-based motivation requires constant feelings and refuelings, right? It needs that dopamine shot that needs to be constant. It needs that serotonin to be constant and elevated, right? You watch a motivational video, you're fired up for about 2 hours. Then it fades. You read an inspired book, you're pumped up for a day. Then it's gone. You attend a conference, you're energized for a week, and then back to baseline. If you're watching me, then you're going to watch me some more. Right? But that's the baseline, man. You're constantly searching for that next hit of motivation. That's addiction behavior, not success behavior, right? Your emotions will tell you, I'm too tired, when you're just comfortable, right? Your emotions are going to tell you it's not the right time, when it's never the right time. Your emotions are going to tell you you deserve a break, even though you just started, right? And then your emotions are going to say, this is too hard. If I had hair, I'll pull it out, right? When it's just uncomfortable, right? Your emotions lie, right? Your emotions lie to keep you safe. And safety is the enemy of greatness. I say again, safety is the enemy of greatness, right? Now, let me give you a business example. Hey, John, take that note, bro. I know you took it. I know you captured that. Take that note, right? Let me give you a business example, real world, right? When I first started building SatDigiNet, I felt overwhelmed. I felt like I didn't know enough about IT and cybersecurity, right? At the CEO level. But I've had businesses before, so I've been the CEO multiple times. But at this particular juncture, I felt like maybe I should wait until I had more credentials, right? I should wait until I had more degrees under my belt, right? But if I had operated on emotion-based motivation, SatDigiNet wouldn't exist, right? It wouldn't exist. But I operate on discipline. I showed up every day. I made calls. I studied. I built relationships. I executed. And you know what happened? You know what happened? After 30 days of discipline and discipline execution, I started feeling motivated. After 60 days, I felt confident. After 90 days, I felt unstoppable, right? And you will feel the same way too, because discipline created the emotion, not the other way around. That's why emotion-based motivation fails, right? Final bosses, warriors, motivators, am I smart? It's backwards. It's backwards, and I'm telling you, it's unreliable and it's unsustainable, right? You need a better system, and that system is discipline, right? Now, let me tell you about, I know you guys probably are tired of my stories of Afghanistan and Iraq, but I'm going to tell you one more, right? Back in back during Operation Enduring Freedom, right? We were building communication networks in the hostile territory where under regular mortar attacks, right? Resources were limited. Timelines are critical. Stress is maximum, right? And I watched soldiers with identical training produce completely different results, right? Why? Because of discipline. The soldiers who succeeded didn't operate on motivation. They operated on discipline. And here's what I learned, right? Discipline works because it removes decision fatigue, right? Every morning, these soldiers didn't wake up asking, do I feel like following protocol today, right? They just did it, right? Automatically. No debate, no negotiation, right? A lot of people think that, oh, you were in the military, man. You didn't have a choice. People have choices. And there are consequences that come with those choices, right? Those you could choose not to get up. You could choose not to come to PT. You best believe there are consequences that go along with that, right? So think about your morning, right? If you have to decide whether to work out, whether to eat healthy, whether to start your day productively, right? You're burning willpower before the day even starts, right? But if it's discipline, it's automatic. You don't decide, you execute, right? Discipline works because it creates that momentum, right? It creates it. Listen, in physics, an object in motion stays in motion. In life, a disciplined person executing stays executing, right? And here's my morning discipline. I'm usually up at 4:30, right? No snooze button, no alarm clock, no negotiation, all internal clock, right? By 5 a.m., I'm reading, right? At least 30 minutes to start the morning off, right? 5:30, God willing, I'm able to do some sort of physical regimen, right? By 7 a.m., this is when I'm meditating, preparing for the day, right? And by 8, that's when operations start. By 8, I've already won the day. That momentum carries me through everything else. But if I woke up at 8 feeling unmotivated, I'll be playing catch up all day. And I do. Those days, oh man, I hate those days. I wake up with late and I feel behind. I feel like I'm 3 hours behind and it drives me insane, right? It drives me insane because I'm used to the habit that was built off discipline, right? And I'll be reactive instead of proactive. And I'll be managed by circumstances instead of managing them, right? Discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates results. Results creates motivation, right? Because discipline works because it builds evidence, right? And here's the powerful part most people miss. Every time you execute discipline, you're proving to yourself that you can. You're proving to yourself that you can do it, right? You said you'll wake up at that particular time. You did. That's your evidence. You said you were going to work out. You did. That's the evidence. You said you're going to make whatever phone calls or start business, read, or what have you. You did it. That's the evidence, right? And that evidence compounds into self-trust. You got to learn how to trust yourself. Have some self-trust. Learn how to trust yourself, right? And self-trust is the foundation of unshakable confidence, right? Let me tell you about this very here podcast, man. Let me tell you about the podcast, right? When I started, it was hilarious. When I started, I committed to consistency, right? 5 shows. Well, I didn't start. No, when did I start? The 5 shows. 5 shows didn't come till later on. I started out with we progressed. It was a progressive state from 3 to 4 to 5, right? Now we're at 5 shows a week, every week, 9 p.m. Eastern time, no exceptions, right? I did I feel motivated? Hell no, right? I did not feel motivated. Hell no, right? Some weeks I was exhausted. Some weeks I was dealing with business crisis. Some weeks I questioned if anyone was even listening, right? But I executed discipline anyway. And right? And you know what happened? We're at episode 187, right? I built evidence. I proved to myself I could commit to finish, and the evidence created a different kind of motivation, a deep, unshakable motivation that comes from knowing who you are, right? Emotion-based motivation says, I'll do it when I feel like it. Discipline-based motivation says, I'll do it until I become it, right? That's why discipline works. Warriors, right? It's reliable. It's sustainable. It's systematic. And systems beat feelings every single time, people. Every single time, right? Now, let me show you the mechanisms, right? How does discipline actually create motivation, right? What's the loop? What's the loop, right? Because there's a cycle and in this that changed my life, and I'm sure it has changed yours too, right? You have to execute discipline. That's step number 1, right? Even when you don't feel like it, right? You set a discipline, whatever it may be. You set it, right? You set it, right? But instead of letting your emotions scream, stay in bed, you execute. You execute anyway, right? You get up and you get that workout on. You get up and you plan your day. You get up and do whatever you have to do to maintain that discipline, right? Now, small battles win wars, right? Small battles wins wars, right? See, it's all about the small results, right? It's all about the micro transactions, right? After that workout, you're going to feel slightly better, right? You'll have slightly more energy. You accomplish something before most people even wake up. And that is satisfying, my friends. That is satisfying, right? I used to say all the time, man, I do more by 11 than most people do all day, right? I used to say that, man. That's something we used to say in the military too, right? But that's not massive motivation yet. But it is a start. It is a start. That's the evidence, right? Now you move on to day 2. You move on to day 3. You move on to day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, right? And by the end of the week, you've executed 5, 6, 7 times, right? You've built evidence that you can commit and follow through. You notice you're sleeping better. You notice you have more energy. You notice you like what you see when you look in the mirror, right? Right? You become what you practice, right? Week 2, week 3, week 4. After 30 days of disciplined execution, something shifts. You don't see yourself as someone who's trying to work out. You see yourself as someone who works out, right? That's an identity shift. And identity is the deepest form of motivation, right? Step 5, motivation emerges, right? And then you want to continue. Then somebody would almost have to break your arm or leg to stop you from conducting the disciplined actions that you just developed, right? Try to take somebody out the gym who's disciplined, disciplined and going, right? So try to take them out of the going, right? It's not happening, right? It's not. And here's the paradox, right? Here's the paradox completely. After 30 to 60 days of discipline, you want to work out. You miss it when you can't. You're motivated to continue. But that motivation didn't come first. It came last. It was the result of discipline, not the cause, right? Now, step 6, you will execute more. I guarantee you will execute more, right? Now that you're motivated, you're going to stay motivated. And while you're motivated, you add another discipline. Maybe it's meal prep, right? Maybe it's reading more, right? Or maybe you're conducting more business, right? The new discipline follows the same loop, same results, momentum. It's a formula, same results, right? Small results plus momentum plus identity shift equals motivation that emerges, right? And step 7, this is when compound motivation kicks in, right? You fast forward 6 months from now, you've got multiple discipline loops running, right? You have your morning workout, you have your healthy eating, you have your daily reading, you have your businesses and things of that nature that you're taking care of, right? And if you're a content creator or you're into that, you're doing that too, right? Each loop is generating its own motivation and they are stackable. They become stackable, right? That's when you become unstoppable, right? That's when people look at you and say, hey, how are you so motivated, right? And the answer is this. You tell them, I'm not motivated. I'm disciplined. And discipline created the motivation, right? Now, let me give you a real example because I need to give you examples, man. It's the importance that you can follow the example, right? Let's start with the starting point. Let's give you guys a starting point, right? I didn't feel like going back to school, right? I did not feel like going back to school, right? Well, I had everything else going on, right? All the other things, life, business, work, all these things that were stacked up. I didn't feel like going back to school. I didn't, right? And I'm being honest, right? But I executed the discipline, right? I enrolled, I showed up, I completed, I studied, right? And I'm still going, right? I'm still going. Month number 1 to month number 2 was pure discipline, zero motivation, just execution. Month 3 and 4, small results, grades coming back, grades are looking great, evidence building, right? Months 5 through 6, was the momentum phase, right? I'm in a rhythm. It's getting easier. Month 7 through 12, identity shift. I'm not a just a student anymore. I'm near completion, right? I'm near completion, right? And then month 13, fully motivated, about to finish. I'm excited. Graduation is in 2 months. And wait, no, in May. Yeah, in May, right? So you might as well say 2 months because what? February. Time is moving so fast. It'll be March before you know it. So yeah, just 2 months, right? So, and then in July, I'm starting the doctoral program, right? Why? Because the discipline motivation loop is running so strong that I'm hungry for more, right? That's the loop, final bosses. Discipline plus evidence plus momentum plus identity plus motivation plus more discipline equals compound results. That's how you build empires. That's how you create legacies. That's how you become a what? A final boss. And that's how you get on board the fired up train, right? Now, let's talk about the discipline of the 6 pillars of success. Now, let me show you, right? Let me show you the discipline runs through every framework, every framework, right? It's in here, right? We ever built together, man. We're building this together. We're on this journey together, man. We're part of the Final Boss community, Final Boss Nation. We're all in it together, right? We're going to move fast through this section, right? We're going to move fast through this because I got to get further. Like it's 36. Yeah, we got time, right? I need you to pay attention though, right? Because you're about to see the line through everything, right? You're about to see the line through everything. This is unredacted, right? Starting with tier 1, right? Tier 1 is the 6 pillars of success, right? This is go time. Book number 1, all aboard the fired up train, right? And here's the 6 pillars: purpose, passion, sacrifice, motivation, consistency, persistence, perseverance, resilience, right? Those are the 6 pillars, right? And your purpose being here is to understand that, right? Your purpose is to understand that and identifying your why, right? You don't find your why, you don't find your purpose through meditation alone. You discover it, right? You discover it through disciplined execution, right? I didn't know my why was to build generational wealth through intellectual property until I was disciplined enough to create content consistently, right? Discipline reveals your why. You have to discover your why, right? You have to discover it, right? And your it's the discipline that transforms your passion, right? It's the discipline that that gives you the passion that you need, right? It gives you the passion you need, right? And perseverance. Perseverance is the pushing through, right? When it's hard. But you know what creates perseverance? It's discipline, right? When you've executed discipline for 30 days straight, and day 31 is even harder, right? But you push through. You push through because you've built evidence that you can do it. Perseverance is just discipline that refuses to quit, right? It's just you refuse to quit, right? The 6 pillars of success is your foundation. But without discipline, they're just concepts, right? Discipline is what activates the pillars. Discipline is what makes them right? Operational. I'm sorry. Purpose without discipline equals dreams. Passion without discipline equals hobbies. Perseverance without discipline equals inconsistency. Patience without discipline equals procrastination. Positivity without discipline equals delusion. And prayer, my friends, without discipline equals occasional hope, right? But purpose plus discipline equals mission execution, right? We're talking about professional excellence, right? We're talking about unstoppable force, right? We're talking about compound success. We're talking about strategic optimism, right? And we're talking about spiritual power, right? All in the pillars of success, right? Motivation, sacrifice, perseverance, persistence, consistency, resilience, right? All 6, right? Now, let's talk about tier 2. Stay with me, right? Tier 2 is strategic building, right? Tier 2 is the 6 building blocks of reward, right? The 6 building blocks of reward, right? Now, we're not going to go through the all 6 building blocks, right? But you need to go get go time, right? But this stuff is Googleable too. I think you can check it out. I think you can check some of this stuff out on Google, right? And let's talk about the 6 building blocks, which are the disciplines. They're not feelings. They're practices, people, right? Just like the 5 systems of sovereignty, right? Which is time management, financial system, your learning system, your health system, your relation systems, right? Every one of those systems requires discipline to build and maintain, right? Now, if you're disciplined enough to stay here, then you're disciplined enough to do more, right? You're disciplined enough to get up when you want to, right? You're disciplined enough to map out your weeks on a Sunday night. You're disciplined enough to be on time every time, right? Every meeting, every whatever, right? And you're disciplined enough to go to the gym if it's something you want to do. You're disciplined enough to have family time if that's what you need to do, right? Is that motivated by emotion? Right? Thank you, Carmen, for joining us. I appreciate you. You can always watch it again, though. We're on YouTube, so you can check it out, all the episodes, or go to our website at www.thefinalbosspodcast.com and watch every episode. We're out there, right? Is that motivation? Is that motivated by emotions? No, that's discipline. You're here because you have discipline, right? That's discipline execution on a proven scale, right? That's I'm not motivated to study. Heck no. Look, I'm not, man. But it's discipline, right? It's discipline, right? The 4 weapons of warfare: strategic thinking, tactical execution, adaptive intelligence, relentless follow through, right? Notice the last one is relentless follow through, right? That's discipline in combat language, right? Because in combat, you didn't feel like not doing your mission, right? You didn't feel like being in a danger zone while people are taking pop shots at you, or mortar rounds are coming in, or firefights, or an IED, all this stuff, man. You weren't disciplined. I mean, I'm sorry. That wasn't motivation. That was discipline, right? When it came to strategic building requires you to build systems, and building anything requires discipline, right? You can't build rewards without disciplined execution of the building blocks. You can't build sovereignty without disciplined management of your systems. You can't win warfare without disciplined deployment of your weapons systems, right? Tier 2 is all about discipline and action, right? Now, let's pivot. Let's talk about tier 3. That's our most recent tier, right? We've been talking about tier 3 for the last couple of weeks, right? Tier 3 is about elite execution, right? This is going into the next framework, right? This is where final bosses operate. Starting with the 6 pillars of execution: speed, precision, scale, system, stamina, and sovereignty, right? Now, let me show you how discipline is the engine for all 6, right? Because speed, you can't execute without speed, right? You can't execute with speed without the discipline to eliminate hesitation, because speed requires disciplined decision-making protocols, right? Precision is discipline. It's the discipline to get the details right, even when you're tired, right? It's always the devil's in the details, right? That's true, right? You can't scale without disciplined systems that run without you, right? Discipline creates automation, right? And systems, right? Systems are disciplined processes. They're discipline encoded into repeatable operations, right? And then your stamina. Stamina is sustained, disciplined over time. It's discipline that doesn't quit when things get hard, right? And then your sovereignty of it all. Sovereignty is discipline with self-governance. It's the discipline to control yourself before you control your empire, right? And here's the 5 scales of empire, right? You have your revenue scale, your impact scale, your team scale, your reach scale, your legacy scale. You can't scale anything without discipline, right? The Final Boss podcast, man, wouldn't be with where it's at today without discipline. My academic scaling wouldn't be what it is without discipline. 23 years of federal service, the same, man. And on. Family, on and on and on, right? Every scale requires disciplined systems, disciplined execution, disciplined repetition, right? The 6 C's of character compass, right? Character, competence, connections, capital, consistency, contribution, right? Notice how consistency is the next to the last, right? Consistency is literally discipline over time, right? But look at the other ones, right? Look at your character and look at character, C number 1, right? Because character requires discipline to maintain integrity when nobody's watching, right? And then competence, right? Competence requires discipline, practice, and continuous learning, right? And then connections. Connections are required disciplines for your disciplined relationships that you need to build and have strategic networking, right? And then capital, right? Everybody loves capital, right? Because capital requires disciplined resource allocation and delayed gratification, right? And then contribution, because contribution requires disciplined value creation and legacy thinking, right? And then let's talk about the 3 thrones of mastery, right? We're talking about excellence, influence, and legacy. We talked about this a few weeks ago, right? You cannot claim the throne of excellence without discipline of perfecting your craft. You cannot claim the throne of influence without discipline of consistent leadership. You cannot claim the throne of legacy without the discipline of long-term thinking. And here's what I want you to see, fighter bosses, warriors, motivators, and smarts, right? Every single framework, every single pillar, every single system, every single weapon, every single throne, they all require discipline. Discipline is the foundation. Discipline is the heart. Discipline is the through line. Discipline is the unredacted source, right? Discipline is the common thread. Discipline is the fuel system. Discipline is the power to the entire architecture, right? Because without discipline, you'll only have theory. With discipline, you have transformation. That's tier 3. And that, my friends, is the truth, right? Now let's pivot for a second. Right? Let's talk about all aboard the fired up train, baby. Yes, the fired up train methodology, because discipline isn't just one component. It's woven through an entire system. Now, let me break this down for you, right? Fired up, the ignition sequence. F is focus, right? Focus requires the discipline to say no to distractions. You can't focus without discipline, attention management. I is for intensity, right? Intensity requires the discipline to operate at peak performance when it counts, right? You can't sustain intensity without discipline, energy management, right? And R is for resilience, right? Resilience requires the discipline to bounce back quickly, and you can't build resilience without discipline recovery, right? E is for execution. Execution requires the discipline to act despite fear. You can't execute consistently without disciplined action protocols, right? And D is for discipline. People, D is for discipline, right? And here it is, the centerpiece of fired up, right? Because discipline is what turned conscious effort into unconscious excellence. It's automated success behaviors running on default, right? And then you, right? We're done with fire, right? Now we're on up, right? So U is for understanding. Understanding requires the discipline to study deeply. You can't gain wisdom without disciplined learning. And P is for precision. Precision requires the discipline to get details right. You can't achieve excellence without disciplined quality control, right? See how discipline sits in the middle of fired up, right? It's the linchpin, right? You remove discipline and focus becomes a distraction, right? You remove discipline and intensity becomes burnout. You remove discipline and resilience becomes fragility, right? You remove discipline and execution becomes procrastination, right? You remove discipline and understanding becomes surface level, right? And you remove discipline and precision becomes sloppiness, right? Discipline holds the fired up train together. Now, let's go into train, right? Let's go into the acronym of train, right? T, this is the operational maintenance, right? T is for training, right? Training is discipline. It's the disciplined development of skills over time, right? R is for responsibility. Responsibility requires the discipline to own outcomes. You can't be accountable without discipline ownership, right? And then A is for accountability. Accountability requires the discipline to track metrics and report your progress. You can't improve without discipline measurement, right? And I is for integrity. Integrity requires the discipline to align actions with values. You can't maintain character without discipline consistency, right? And then N is for navigation. Navigation requires the discipline to course correct quickly. You can't stay on track without disciplined directional movement, right? And management, right? So here's the integration, right? Here's the integration. The fired up train ignites your system through discipline, right? The train of fired up train maintains your system through discipline, right? The entire fired up train methodology is a disciplined delivery system. Now, let me give you some real examples, right? The Find the Boss podcast, right? Focus, discipline, focus, intensity, right? Disciplined intensity in research, preparation, delivery, resilience, right? Resilience is recovery between episodes, right? Execution is doing it 5 shows a week at 9 p.m., all live, no exceptions, right? And then the discipline factor, right? That's the continued content creation, right? The editing, the publishing, all across the board, right? And the marketing, right? Especially the marketing. Oh my God. You is the understanding piece of it, right? This is the business strategy. This is the character development, right, man? This is the study for the conscious merger for Merger Wednesdays, right? And then P is for every framework that's being tested, right? Every claim being verified, right? And then training. You have the communication, the podcasting, the research, the development, right? And then responsibility of the quality of work, right? And the quality of content, right? The community impact. And then accountability. That's your engagement, the growth. And it continues, man. The I factor, right? The I factor is the discipline alignment that this is you teach how you live, right? And then navigation. This is the discipline course correction, right? This is your community feedback and results, right? And right now we're at 187 episodes, 350,000 plus followers, 5 shows a week, 0 missed weeks. That's not motivation, my friends. That's discipline, right? That's discipline, right? Running through the fired up train, creating systematic results, right? And that's available to you, my good people, my warriors, my final bosses, my motivators, my smarts, right? Now let's pivot for a second, right? Let's pivot for a second and let's talk about the I think we've gone over enough for the main part of the show. Let's talk about your challenge. Yeah, let's talk about your call to action. Let's talk about your 30-day challenge, right? Now, as you know, I give everybody weekly and monthly challenges, and tonight's no different, right? So, final bosses, I need you to get ready, right? I need you to get ready because this is going to be your proof of concept, right? Because I can talk about discipline all night long, all day long, right? But what matters is you executing it, right? So here's what I need you to do, right? For the next 30 days, this is going to be your discipline motivation challenge, right? And we're going to start this tonight. You're going to pick one discipline from the 6 C's that you learned, right? That you learned from the other shows. And if you don't know what the other one, what the 6 C's are, the first, they're character, competence, connections, capital, consistency, contribution, right? And I need you to just pick one, right? Don't try to do all 6, right? But I want you to create value I want you to create some value, right? I want you to create some value in discipline, right? And this is not to be overwhelmed, man. I know everybody's busy and everyone has a lot going on, but just pick one, right? And this is how you're going to track that one 6 C's, right? And it's okay not to feel motivated, right? You're fighting your old operating system. If you don't understand your operating system, go watch 2 episodes ago when I talked about it's time to get your operating system upgraded, right? Right? So this is what I need you to do. I need you to start documenting, right? Off the 1 C that you picked, how hard it is to be disciplined in it, right? What obstacles you face. What excuses does your mind develop, right? And then I want you to push through anyway, right? I want you to do that for the first 7 days. From days 8 to 14, this is going to be the momentum phase, right? I like to think that 1 C that you're working on, that discipline, is getting easier, right? Your body and mind is adapting. You are starting to see small results, right? I want you to document that. I want you to document what's getting easier, right? I want you to document what small wins you're starting to see. I want you to document what evidence is building, and then what momentum feels different. And then the third week, days 15 through 21, right? This is when something starts to shift in you, right? You're becoming someone else who does this thing that you're going to be doing, right? It's becoming a part of who you are. And I want you to identify the shift. I want you to see yourself differently. I want you to see how it's now automatic versus when it was hard, right? And I want you to let others know, right? Let others know, right? Spread, don't gatekeep, spread it, right? And then days 22 through 30, right? This is your motivation phase. This is the 4th week. This is the paradox, right? This is when it's completed. Because now you should be motivated to continue, right? You should want to do it. If you miss it, you miss it, but you still want to do it, right? Even when you can't, right? That's the energy. That's what I'm looking for, right? And document this. Document your how your motivation emerged from this discipline, right? And what you're now motivated to add on to it. Remember, we said it's stackable, right? And then how does this feel? How does this feel different than emotion-based motivation, right? And then what you learned about yourself, right? And then I want you to share, right? Share it with hashtag discipline motivation, hashtag find a bosses, hashtag find a boss challenge, hashtag character OS, right? Post, post, post. Day 1, start the challenge. By day 7, you're a week down. By day 14, you're halfway there. By day 21, the identity shifts happens. By day 30, the challenge is complete, right? Why this matters, right? Because in 30 days, I'm going to be doing something special for somebody, right? I'm going to be doing something special for somebody. Stay tuned, right? And I want you to showcase, right? I want you to showcase the disciplines you chose, the obstacles you overcame, the results you achieved, and the motivation that emerged. You're not just completing a challenge, you're becoming proof that the discipline motivation loop works, right? That's what you're going to be doing, right? And you need to teach someone else these very principles, right? I want you to teach someone else what you learned, right? Don't gatekeep. We're in this community together. We all can use a little assistance, right? That's legacy, right? And 30 days, 1 discipline, total transformation. Who's in? Who's in? Raise your hand. Who's in? Right? Who's in? Right? Now, let me show you something powerful, right? Let me show you something powerful. Let me show you how this episode integrates with every framework we've ever built, right? Because discipline isn't separate from these frameworks. Discipline is the activator of the frameworks, right? Tier 1 integration is the 6 pillars of success, right? Because discipline activates them all, right? Tier 2, before I go into tier 2, without discipline, the pillars are just concepts, right? With discipline, they're operational, right? Motivation, consistency, perseverance, persistence, motivation, and resilience, right? I think I messed that up somewhere in there. My sinuses really bother me. But let's go into tier 2, right? Tier 2 is the building blocks of reward, right? And discipline constructs them. Discipline, motivation, maintenance, right? All the way through till you get to the 5 systems of sovereignty, right? Discipline manages them. Discipline time management, discipline financial system, discipline learning protocols, discipline health maintenance, discipline relationship building, right? And then you move on to the 4 weapons of warfare, right? Discipline deploys them. Discipline strategic thinking, discipline tactical execution, discipline adaptive intelligence, discipline relentless follow through, right? And then tier 3, this is your 6 pillars of execution, right? Discipline powers them, right? The 5 scales of empire, discipline grows them. The 6 C's of character compass, that's what your homework is, right? That's your discipline upgrades, right? And then your 3 thrones of mastery, discipline claims them, right? Do you see it? Do you guys see it, right? If you don't, by the time you finish this homework, that's how you will, right? By the time you finish this challenge, you will, right? Discipline is the thread that weaves through every framework. It's the fuel in your engine. It's the electricity in your circuits. It's the blood in your veins. You remove discipline and every framework becomes theory. You add discipline and every framework becomes transformation. This is why tonight's episode was so critical, right? So you can know all the frameworks, you can understand all the principles, you can have all of the knowledge. But without discipline, you have nothing. With discipline, you have everything. And here's the beautiful part. Once you understand that discipline creates motivation and not the other way around, you become unstoppable. You, my friends, become unstoppable because you're no longer waiting to feel ready. You're creating readiness through disciplined execution. That's the integration. That's the through line. That's the unredacted truth. That's the secret, right? The discipline is the master key that unlocks the door, right? Now, let me bring this on home. Let me bring this on home, right? Because the most important perspective is legacy, right? And you're doing this for someone else other than yourself. But here's what I learned about legacy, right? Love isn't enough. Intention isn't enough. Discipline is what builds. Now, let me show you what I mean. Emotion-based legacy, I love you, right? So I'll provide for you when I feel like it, right? The result, inconsistency, right? Across all levels, right? Inconsistent examples, inconsistent legacy, right? Discipline-based legacy, right? I love you, so I discipline myself to execute for you, right? Regardless of how I feel. The results are numerous, right? The results are numerous. That's the difference between love without discipline and loving with discipline, right? And here's something that I want my daughter to know when she gets old enough, right? She doesn't see that dad gets up at the time that he does, or he conducts his days the way he does, or the different things that he's doing that she can't see, right? But what she does see is the discipline, right? She doesn't see the motivation. She doesn't see that the things that she'll be able to inherit later on, right? She doesn't see that. But she'll remember the examples. She will remember the executed discipline, right? That's generational. And she will pass it on, right? But here's what keeps me disciplined even when I'm exhausted, right? Even when I'm exhausted. She's my why, right? She's my why. And that fact alone, that's what keeps me going, right? Not emotion, not temporary motivation. That's legacy discipline, right? Because the greatest gift I can give to her isn't money. It's the evidence that discipline creates the life you want, right? And for every parent watching this episode right now, your kids are watching you. They're learning from you, not from what you say, but from what you do, right? Your kids are watching you. They're learning. And they're not learning from what you say. They're learning from what you do. You could tell them about discipline, or you can show them discipline, right? Which legacy are you building? For everyone else who doesn't have kids, your legacy isn't just biological. It's the impact you have on every life you touch. The Final Boss community is watching this right now, right? What example are you setting? What evidence are you creating that discipline works, right? Your legacy is being written with your daily disciplines. Make somebody proud of it, right? Make somebody proud of it, right? Now, we're 13 episodes from the season finale, The Reckoning, and here's your reckoning for tonight, right? You've been waiting for motivation. Stop, right? You've been waiting to feel ready. Stop, right? You've been waiting for the perfect time. Stop, right? And here's the truth you need to hear. The motivation you're waiting for is on the other side of the discipline you're avoiding. The motivation you're waiting for is on the other side of the discipline you're avoiding, right? The motivation you're waiting for is on the other side of the discipline you're avoiding, right? Still ain't got it. Still ain't got it, right? You still thinking I'll start when I'm motivated? No. You'll get motivated when you start. That's the paradox. That's the secret. That's what tonight has been all about, right? You have your assignment, right? Check back with us in 30 days, right? Check back with us. Let's see some hashtags out there. Hashtag Final Boss Challenge. Hashtag discipline motivation. Hashtag Final Boss, right? Right? Start tomorrow. Execute. Document. Push through anyway, right? Build, 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 right? Wash, rinse, repeat, right? By day 30, you wouldn't even recognize yourself, right? You've executed 30 consecutive days of discipline. You've built some evidence, right? You will have experience. You will have created some momentum. You would have become someone different than you were 30 days ago, right? And to my smarts, your intelligence means nothing without the discipline to apply it daily. To my final bosses, your ambition means nothing without the discipline to execute it consistently. To my motivators, your inspiration means nothing without the discipline to live it authentically. To my warriors, your strength means nothing without the discipline to direct it strategically. Discipline is what transforms potential into performance, right? Life won't always give you motivation, but you can always choose discipline. And when you choose discipline consistently, motivation emerges naturally. Don't wait to feel ready. Create readiness through disciplined execution. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect through disciplined preparation. Don't wait to be motivated. Become motivated through disciplined action. That's how you build, right? That's how you build. Right? Final bosses, smarts, motivators, warriors. This has been episode number 187, right? Motivation Monday, season 3, The Reckoning. 13 episodes to go. The train is at the station. You get bored with emotion-based motivation that crashes by noon, or you get bored with discipline-based motivation that compounds for decades. The choice is yours. But understand this. Motivation gets you started. Discipline gets you finished, right? Final boss is finished, right? Let's go. Stay fired up. Stay on the train. Stay disciplined. You're not a chess piece. You're a chess master. Now go execute. Go execute. I am the final boss. This has been episode number 187. I hope everyone has a great evening, a beautiful night, and a wonderful start to the next morning, right? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And if this resonated with you, share it with 3 other people, right? And if it does resonate with you, let it marinate in your spine. And remember this, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but the pain of regret is even heavier. We are here. I am here. Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That is our show for tonight, man. I hope each and every last single one of you take your notes. Thanks, John. Appreciate you. Take your notes, do the challenge, get back with us, right? This isn't optional. You're part of the Final Boss community. This isn't optional. This is the work. This is the discipline. Report back in, and we're going to talk about it. Talk to you soon. See you tomorrow night for the Tuesday, the Sensei. Y'all have a great one.